Hi there. Ito si Attorney Chato Olivas, and I am happy na nag-member ka sa Remedial Law Tutorials. I will do my best na may explain ang concepts and rules very clearly para maintindihan mo ito ng mabuti. Kung sakaling kailangan mo ng further explanation, feel free na i-post mo sa comments ang questions mo para masagot ko ito. Ang mga topics na i-discuss ko dito ay ang mga sumusunod based on the 2024 bar syllabus issued by the Supreme Court on the subject of remedial law. So, for this particular video, pag-usapan natin ang mga general principles. And these are as follows. Letter A, substantive law versus adjective law. Letter B, rulemaking power of the Supreme Court. Letter C, hierarchy of courts, doctrine of non-interference, and judicial stability. D, suppletory application of the rules of court in administrative bodies. And E, construction of the rules of court under Rule 1, Section 6. Okay, by the way, meron din akong virtual textbook on remedial law which is available for free. Just visit this link, http://civ-pro.blogspot.com. So, umpisahan na natin ang general principles. Letter A, substantive law versus adjective law. Itong letter A na to, it refers to the meaning and distinctions between substantive law and adjective law. Ano ba ang substantive law? Ito ay ang batas na gumagawa or creates or defines rights, duties, obligations, and causes of action that can be enforced by law. Ito ang definition ng substantive law sa Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Ang adjective law naman, also known as remedial law or procedural law, is the portion of the law that deals with the rules of procedure governing evidence, pleading, and practice. So it governs the machinery of the courts and the methods by which both the owners of the rights enforce the rights under this procedure. So substantive law is the what, adjective law is the how, the procedure. So pag titignan natin, ang civil law, civil code is the source of substantive law. Nandun yung mga rights and obligations. Civil procedure naman is the remedial law. How do you enforce the right? How do you protect the right? What can you do in case the right is violated? Okay, so one is substantive, the other is procedural. Okay, so pag sinabing procedural, ang ibig sabihin, we're talking about rules of court, we're talking about adjective law, we're talking about remedial law. Tingnan natin ang landmark case of Primicias versus Ocampo, 93 Philippines 446. This was a case in 1953 at yung mga principles na nandito ay valid up to now. No? So let's take a look at what the landmark case of Primicias versus Ocampo says. Sabi ng Supreme Court sa kasong ito, substantive law is that part of the law that creates, defines, and regulates rights, or which regulates the right and duties which give rise to a cause of action. It is that part of the law which courts are established to administer, as opposed to adjective or remedial law which prescribes the method of enforcing rights or obtaining redress for their invasions. Meron pang isang case, Tan versus Court of Appeals, a 2002 case appearing in 424 Philippine Reports 556. Sabi dito, procedural laws are adjective laws that prescribe rules and forms of procedure for enforcing rights or obtaining redress for their invasion. They refer to the rules of procedure by which courts applying laws of all kinds can properly administer justice. So anong kasama dito? Rules of pleading, practice, and evidence. As applied to criminal law, they provide or regulate the steps by which one who commits a crime is to be punished. So, ito yung mga examples. No? Example number 1, under the new civil code, Article 1657, ang obligation ng lessee, among others, is to pay the price of the lease according to the terms stipulated in the contract or according to their agreement. This is substantive. Sinasagot niya, what is the obligation of the lessee? And the answer is, he must pay the price of the lease as agreed. Yung procedural counterpart nito ay nasa Rule 17 ng Rules of Court on Unlawful Detainer. This gives the procedure for ejecting a lessee who was not paid rent despite due demand. So this is procedural, adjective, or remedial. Another example, sa Family Code, Article 174 states that legitimate children shall have the right to receive support from their parents, their ascendants, and in proper cases, their brothers and sisters in conformity with the provisions of the Family Code on support. This is substantive. It answers the question, what? What right is being referred to in this provision? Yung rules on support naman, Administrative Matter 21-03-02-SC. This refers to how the right to support is enforced when the person obliged to support fails to do so. This is procedural, adjective, or remedial. Okay, so I hope malinaw na ang distinction between substantive and adjective law. Dako naman tayo sa letter B, which is the rulemaking power of the Supreme Court. Under our 1987 Constitution, the Supreme Court has the power to promulgate rules of pleading practice and procedure. Remember the limitation, only rules of pleading practice and procedure. Ang basis ng authority ng Supreme Court in promulgating the rules of court and other procedural laws is this provision of the Constitution. Article 8, Section 5, subparagraph 5. Now, under this provision, the Supreme Court has the power to promulgate rules concerning the protection and enforcement of constitutional rights, pleading, practice, and procedure in all courts, the admission to the practice of law, the integrated bar, and legal assistance to the underprivileged. Such rules shall provide a simplified and inexpensive procedure for the speedy disposition of cases, shall be uniform for all courts of the same grade, and shall not diminish, increase, or modify substantive rights. Rules of procedure of special courts and quasi-judicial bodies shall remain effective unless disapproved by the Supreme Court. So if you look at this provision, okay, meron ditong mga limitations na nasa Constitution concerning the rulemaking power of the Supreme Court. Apat ito. Okay, number 1, the procedure shall be simplified and inexpensive. Okay, number 2, the goal of the procedure is the speedy disposition of cases. So kung hahaba lang ang proseso at magiging unjust for the parties involved, then that is not in accordance with the constitutional limitations. Okay, number 3, the rules issued by the Supreme Court must be uniform for all courts of the same grade. This means, for example, that the rules of procedure for all RTCs shall apply to all RTCs throughout the country. The same is true for all first-level courts, such as metropolitan trial courts or municipal trial courts. And the fourth limitation, the rules shall not diminish, increase, or modify substantive rights. Only laws passed by the lawmaking body can affect substantive rights. Procedural rules are intended to govern pleading practice and procedure to protect but not modify substantive rights. So kanina pinag-usapan natin anong pagkakaiba ng substantive at saka procedural rules. This is another distinction. Substantive laws are issued by the lawmaking body, by Congress. Procedural rules are issued by the Supreme Court. Now, ano yung doctrine of hierarchy? The doctrine of judicial hierarchy. Okay? Under this doctrine, dapat i-observe natin yung hierarchy as much as possible. Anong ibig sabihin? Kung ang kaso falls within the concurrent jurisdiction of courts of different levels in the hierarchy, the case must first be filed with the court of the lowest level so that the higher level courts will not be unduly burdened. O, bibigyan ko kayo ng example. Petition for certiorari under Rule 65 of the Rules of Court, ito ay nasa concurrent original jurisdiction ng Regional Trial Court, Court of Appeals, and Supreme Court. Anong ibig sabihin ng concurrent original jurisdiction? A petition for certiorari under Rule 65 is an original action. It is not an appellate procedure. Yun, tatandaan yun. So, a petition for certiorari may be filed originally, not on appeal, kasi nga hindi siya appeal, okay? It may be filed originally before any of these courts, RTC, CA, and SC. So, where do you file a petition for certiorari questioning an order of the Metropolitan Trial Court? Do you go to the Supreme Court immediately kasi petition for certiorari siya? Well, the answer is no. Go to the lowest level court in the hierarchy, which in this case is the RTC. So remember the rationale so that you will not unduly place a burden on the higher courts regarding a matter that can be addressed by the lower courts. Okay? So malinaw yan. Now, there are 4 exceptions to this doctrine. Tatandaan nyo to. Okay, baka tanungin ito sa bar. Okay, number 1, when dictated by the public welfare and the advancement of public policy. Number 2, when demanded by the broader interest of justice. Number 3, when the challenged orders were patent nullities. And number 4, when analogous, exceptional, and compelling circumstances call for and justify the immediate and direct handling of the case by the Supreme Court. All right, so the Supreme Court explained the general rule and the exceptions in the case of Ernesto D. versus Honorable Gina M. Bibat Palamos et al., GR number 196200, September 11, 2013, as follows. In this case, the petitioner went directly to the Supreme Court in filing a petition for certiorari. This is what the Supreme Court said. Under the principle of hierarchy of courts, direct recourse to the Supreme Court is improper because the Supreme Court is a court of last resort and must remain so for it to satisfactorily perform its constitutional functions, thereby allowing it to devote its time and attention to matters within its exclusive jurisdiction and preventing the overcrowding of its docket. Lalong-lalo na, there is only one Supreme Court. Kaya lang, there are several regional trial courts. So if you can go to the lowest level courts, then do so. To continue, the Supreme Court said, nonetheless, the invocation of this court's original jurisdiction to issue writs of certiorari has been allowed in certain instances on the grounds of special and important reasons clearly stated in the petition, such as, okay, since this is a review for those who are reviewing for the bar, or this is our first time you encounter this for those who are presently taking up special civil actions, because petition for certiorari is special civil action. Here are again the 4 exceptions, okay, which I already mentioned earlier. Number 1, when dictated by the public welfare and the advancement of public policy. Number 2, when demanded by the broader interest of justice. 3, when the challenged orders were patent nullities. Or 4, when analogous, exceptional, and compelling circumstances call for and justify the immediate and direct handling of the case by the Supreme Court. Okay, so malinaw na yan, principle of judicial hierarchy. The rationale, do not overburden the higher courts. Okay. Next, we talk about the doctrine of non-interference, which is important for judicial stability. So ang next topic, doctrine of non-interference and judicial stability. Anong ibig sabihin nito? A court cannot interfere with the decisions and actions of another court of co-equal rank. This is to maintain judicial stability. Decisions of courts can be reviewed, revised, modified, or affirmed only by courts of a higher rank. So an MTC cannot review the decision of another MTC. An RTC cannot review the decision of another RTC. But the RTC can review the decision of the MTC, and the CA can review the decision of the RTC. So, meron akong kasong isa-cite, Kabili versus Balindong, Administrative Matter number RTJ-10-2225, September 6, 2011. may excerpts akong gustong basahin, or I would like to recite some parts of this case. Now, this case involved a vehicular accident which caused the death of a certain Jesus Ledesma and physical injuries to several others. So, nag-file ng civil action for damages yung concerned parties, yung plaintiffs, before the RTC of Iligan City against Mindanao State University. RTC Iligan City issued a writ of execution after due proceedings when Mindanao State University or MSU failed to comply. The sheriff issued a notice of garnishment on the bank of MSU. MSU sought to stop the execution by filing a petition with the RTC of Marawi City for prohibition and mandamus, with an application for the issuance of a temporary restraining order and or preliminary injunction against the bank and the sheriff. So, ang case originated from the RTC of Iligan City, and then nung nag-issue na ng writ of execution ng RTC Iligan, yung MSU yung defendant, pumunta siya sa RTC Marawi. Okay, so pinapa-review niya, pinapa-stop niya yung implementation of the writ of execution. So the court was presided by the respondent judge in this case, and the judge issued a temporary restraining order against the sheriff and the bank. The sheriff moved to dismiss the case for lack of jurisdiction, which was granted by the RTC of Marawi. Now, counsel for the plaintiffs in the civil case for damages filed an administrative complaint against the judge of RTC Marawi Branch 8. The charge was for gross ignorance of the law, grave abuse of authority, abuse of discretion, and or grave misconduct prejudicial to the interest of the judicial service. The basis of this administrative case was the judge's act of interfering with the order of a co-equal branch, that is RTC Iligan, by issuing a TRO to enjoin the sheriff from garnishing the amount with the bank of MSU. Nung inimbestigahan ito ng Office of the Court Administrator or OCA, the OCA found the judge of RTC Marawi guilty of gross ignorance of the law for violating the elementary rule of non-interference with the proceedings of a court of co-equal jurisdiction. Now, the Supreme Court upheld the finding of the Office of the Court Administrator. According to the Supreme Court, the doctrine of judicial stability or non-interference in the regular orders or judgments of a co-equal court is an elementary principle in the administration of justice. No court can interfere by injunction with the judgments or orders of another court of concurrent jurisdiction. The rationale for the rule is founded on the concept of jurisdiction. A court that acquires jurisdiction over the case and renders judgment therein has jurisdiction over its judgment to the exclusion of all other coordinate courts for its execution and overall its incidents, and to control in the furtherance of justice the conduct of ministerial officers acting in connection with this judgment. So just to put it very clearly, a court of co-equal branch cannot interfere. Hindi niya pwedeng pakialaman yung decision of another court of the same rank. All right? Now, let's go to letter D, suppletory application of the rules of court in administrative bodies. Doon muna tayo sa rules of court itself, Rule 1, Section 4. Ang sabi ng rules of court, Rule 1, Section 4, these rules shall not apply to election cases, land registration, cadastral, naturalization, and insolvency proceedings, and other cases not herein provided for except by analogy or in a suppletory character and whenever practicable and convenient. Ibig sabihin, so there are special rules in these cases that are mentioned in Section 4. Election cases, land registration, cadastral, naturalization, insolvency. So yung mga special rules na to ang masusunod primarily. Pero in a suppletory manner, pwedeng i-apply yung rules of court if there are no provisions that are found in the special rules governing those administrative proceedings. Pero ang limitation nito, whenever practicable and convenient. Kasi kung magiging mas burdensome ang application ng rules of court, hindi na yon i-apply. So only when practicable and convenient. Now, meron pang isang administrative order, that's Administrative Order number 22, October 11, 2011, prescribing rules and regulations governing appeals to the office of the President of the Philippines. Section 19 provides, the rules of court shall apply in a suppletory character whenever practicable and convenient. So always, that is the standard, whenever it is practicable and whenever it is convenient. Dako tayo sa letter E, construction of the rules of court. This is found in Rule 1, Section 6. Now, the norm is that procedural rules should be interpreted liberally to attain substantial justice. Technicalities of procedure should be avoided. This is found in Rule 1, Section 6 of the Rules of Court, which states, these rules shall be liberally construed in order to promote their objective of securing a just, speedy, and inexpensive disposition of every action and proceeding. However, the Supreme Court is careful to point out that procedural rules should be respected and observed and cannot just be disregarded by invoking interest of justice. If it is to be invoked as a basis for failure to meet procedural requirements, the movement should give a good justification. So in other words, kung meron hindi nagawa ang isang abogado, hindi niya nasunod yung certain procedure, hindi enough na pwedeng sabihin niya, please let me proceed in the interest of justice. That's not enough. There must be a valid basis for failure to meet the procedural requirements and a valid basis for invoking the interest of justice. So the Supreme Court stated, the bare invocation of the interest of substantial justice is not a magic wand that will automatically compel the courts to suspend procedural rules. This is found in the case of Jose F. Latogan versus People, January 22, 2020, GR number 238298. Okay, so let's deal with this case of Dr. Joseph L. Maliksi et al. Versus Dr. Glory V. Baltasar, GR number 208224, November 22, 2017. So yung petitioner dito, Dr. Maliksi et al., filed an administrative complaint against Dr. Baltasar for gross misconduct. The case was filed before the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission dismissed the case on the ground of forum shopping. The CSC denied the motion for reconsideration of the petitioners, prompting them to appeal the case before the Court of Appeals. Now, the CA dismissed the appeal on technical grounds. Okay, may mga sinite ang Court of Appeals. Number 1, sabi, the petitioners did not state the date they received the CA decision and the date they filed their motion for reconsideration. Okay, number 2, the attached decision and resolution are mere photocopies, dapat daw certified true copies. Number 3, the mandatory compliance legal education or MCLE compliance date of the petitioner's counsel is not stated. And number 4, walang proof of competent evidence of identity. The Court of Appeals denied the petitioner's motion for reconsideration, prompting them to bring the case before the Supreme Court. According to the petitioners, they indicate that inilagay naman daw nila yung mga important dates in their appeal before the CA. And they attached certified true copies of the assailed decision and resolution. However, they admit that they failed to indicate the date of their counsel's MCLE compliance and to provide proof of competent evidence of identity. Okay, the Supreme Court pointed out that procedural rules should be observed for the orderly administration of justice. but there are certain exceptions. Citing Aguam versus Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court stated, the court's primary duty is to render or dispense justice. A litigation is not a game of technicalities. Lawsuits, unlike duels, are not to be won by a rapier's thrust. Technicality, when it deserts its proper office as an aid to justice and becomes its great hindrance and chief enemy, deserves scant consideration from courts. Litigations must be decided on their merits and not on technicality. Every party litigant must be afforded the amplest opportunity for the proper and just determination of his cause, free from the unacceptable plea of technicalities. Now, here's another case, Jose F. Latogan versus People, January 22, 2020, GR number 238298. Si Jose Latogan, he was charged and convicted of murder in a decision dated June 5, 2015. After his conviction, he filed a motion for reconsideration in which he stated, upon receipt hereof, please submit the same for a hearing for the kind consideration of the Honorable Court. Further, please schedule the same for oral arguments as soon as the prosecution files its comment thereto. Now, dinenay ng RTC yung motion na to kasi hindi siya naglagay ng date to be set for hearing. According to the rules of court, applicable at the time of when this case was pending, okay, dapat may setting for hearing ang motion for reconsideration. So, later on, the accused filed a notice of appeal. The RTC denied the notice on the ground that the decision had become final. So, ang ginawa ng accused, nag-file siya ng special civil action for certiorari under Rule 65 before the Court of Appeals. The CA dismissed this on technical grounds. Now, almost 5 months after receipt of the resolution, the petitioner filed an omnibus motion for reconsideration, and he claimed that he stands to serve reclusion perpetua, which is equivalent to life imprisonment, for a heinous crime that he purportedly committed, and that his petition was meant to correct the order of the RTC judge denying his appeal. Considering the judge's blatant and grave error in convicting him of murder instead of homicide, and in the interest of justice, technicality should be set aside, and his petition, as well as notice of appeal, should be given due course. Dinenay ng Court of Appeals yung petition for certiorari, so he went up to the Supreme Court. Ang argument niya, his conviction carries a prison term of reclusion perpetua. Standing alone, it is a circumstance exceptional enough to allow him the opportunity to challenge the RTC's decision for reasons of equity and substantial justice. So ito, he cited substantial justice. What did the Supreme Court do? The Supreme Court granted the petition for certiorari. This is what the Supreme Court said. The motion for reconsideration before the RTC indeed failed to comply with certain technical requirements such as notice of hearing. The court is well aware of the judicial mandate that rules prescribing the time which certain acts must be done or certain proceedings taken are absolutely indispensable to the prevention of needless delays and the orderly and speedy discharge of judicial business. However, procedural rules were precisely conceived to aid the attainment of justice. If a stringent application of the rules would hinder rather than serve the demands of substantial justice, the rules must yield to substantial justice to attain the objective of a just, speedy, and inexpensive determination of every action and proceeding. In this case, the liberal construction of the rules will better promote and secure a just determination of the petitioner's culpability. Now, dito sa case na to, in-enumerate din ng Supreme Court yung factors that justify the relaxation of the rule on immutability of final judgments to serve the ends of justice. And these include A, matters of life, liberty, honor, or property. B, the existence of special or compelling circumstances. C, the merits of the case. D, a cause not entirely attributable to the fault or negligence of the party favored by the suspension of the rules. E. Lack of any showing that the review sought is merely frivolous and dilatory. And F. The other party will not be unjustly prejudiced thereby. So the Supreme Court thoroughly reviewed the records and found that compelling circumstances exist in this case to justify the relaxation of the rules. It pointed out that the petitioner's life and liberty are at stake. The trial court sentenced him to suffer the penalty of reclusion perpetua, and this conviction attained finality on the basis of a mere technicality, not entirely through his own fault or doing. It is but proper, under the circumstances, that the petitioner be given the opportunity to defend himself and to pursue his appeal. Otherwise, there would be grave injustice. So both the petitioner's motion for reconsideration before the RTC and his subsequent petition for certiorari in the CA also appear to stand on meritorious grounds. And there is a lack of any showing that the review sought is merely frivolous and dilatory. Continuing further, the Supreme Court said, this court is fully aware that procedural rules are not to be simply disregarded as they ensure an orderly and speedy administration of justice. Nonetheless, it is equally true that courts are not enslaved by technicalities. They have the prerogative to relax compliance with procedural rules of even the most mandatory character, mindful of the duty to reconcile both the need to speedily put an end to litigation and the party's right to an opportunity to be heard. Cases should be decided only after giving all parties the chance to argue their causes and defenses. Technicality and procedural imperfection should, as a rule, not serve as a basis for decisions. In that way, the ends of justice would be served. That ends our discussion in this video. In the next video, we will talk about jurisdiction. Meanwhile, feel free to read my virtual textbook on remedial law through the link http://civ-pro.blogspot.com. See you at the next video.